son named after my dad. I don't know. I mean, I don't know for sure. There's been so much going on, obviously, but you don't trust him? Something just doesn't sit right with me about this whole thing.
Here, Grandma's dinner. There's only a few left. Have one.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel for an all new episode recap of today's Days of Our Lives, December 5th, 2024. So Hope is back in town to pay respects to her father, and she's looking for everybody at the Horton house. Nobody is there. However, she sees this guy, Little Dougie. I'm gonna call him Little Dougie for now. So she is surprised to see him because she's like, do I know you? And he's like, no, I'm Doug Williams. So she's like, excuse me? Doug Williams is my father. You know, he was buried today. Like, how dare you? So Julie comes in to kind of settle things, and you know, they hug, and she's, you know, she was surprised. So she's asking Hope if Bo's up and about. So she said no changes, but they're still holding hope that he's gonna wake up. And you know, Julie said that she's gonna pray for him, and she just feels bad that she couldn't have been there sooner to support her and the rest of the family. So she said it's understandable. I'm glad you're here now. So she's asking Julie what's going on with this guy. So she introduces Little Dougie to Hope and says that, you know, he's Doug's grandson, and she explains the whole situation around it. So of course, Hope, you can tell in Hope's eyes that Hope is skeptical about this guy. She accepts it for now and welcomes him to the family, but something is up about her reaction to him. So coming after the aftermath of Sean and Belle decided to, you know, end things in their marriage, Marlena comes out, and Marlena said that she overheard Sean's voice. So she said, yes, he was here earlier. So she said, so have you guys got to talk about your marriage? She said, yes, and we made a decision to end things. You know, we haven't really been happy in our marriage, and even though I didn't really think that it would happen and I didn't have the words to put it out, I was feeling that way too with everything that has gone on. So, you know, Sean is a lovely man, and he's the father of my child. We'll forever have that connection, but things are just not how they used to be. And, you know, I didn't think that I would be a lawyer writing up my own divorce papers. You know, we were high school sweethearts. We've had a whole history together. And, you know, she was asking about it, and she's surprised that they're ending things. So she said, not really, but I really was hoping that you guys would work things out. So anyways, you know, Marlena cheers her up with some ice cream, because, you know, ice cream is the key to, you know, getting over a breakup and all of that. So they had a little mom and daughter time, and that cheered her up. So she went back to talk to Shane about reaching through to John and all of that. So Belle calls Claire to tell her the news about her and her father divorcing. So I'm not going to even spend long on this part with Sierra and Lucas, right? Because Leo just really shamed them and really tell them about themselves earlier, you know, about them judging Steven about whether or not he stole the necklace that belonged to Alice Horton and all of that. So they're saying, you know, Leah's just taking up for him because they're two peas in a pod. They're, you know, thieves and burglars and all of that. So I mean, I really just got sick of them kind of judging them and berating them, because they're in no position, shape or form to really judge anybody, especially Lucas, because Lucas has committed his fair share of crimes, you know, and he's an alcoholic, all of that stuff, right? So for him to feel like he's holier than thou, it really sickening to me. So Stephanie is doing some PR work, trying to put out fires that happened at the soap opera regarding the gossip column, exposing the soap opera spoilers and all that, right? So what's his name? Xander comes in. So Xander, you know, just comes directly to Stephanie, talking about how she has created this PR thunderstorm, sending it his way and just painting him in a bad light. And you know, it's all about public opinion, and he doesn't want the public to really think that he's this kind of guy and all of that. And she's just taking off for Philip and highlighting him in the best way. So he's offering her a better payment, twice a better payment than what Philip is offering her if she come work for him. You know, she used to work for Titan, and she said back when it was under different management, and he said that, you know, it's a lucrative business and all that, and it would be good to partner up again, and, you know, just to basically do the work that she's doing now for Philip. So she said, you know, it sounds tempting, but no, I'm not gonna take it up. So he's like, come on now, like, you know, she's saying that she's committed to Philip and just, you know, helping him out. So he's like, you sure it's not beyond that? I mean, you guys have a history. You used to be engaged. You sure you're not trying to do that to, like, you know, get back into his bed, or, you know, take it up to another notch and get engaged and be queen of Titan and all that? So of course she felt disrespected by that, and she said, like, you know, you misogynistic pig and all of that. Like, I mean, you really had to stoop that low, and not that it's any of your business, but things between me and Philip are strictly professional. So he said, where did I hear that before? Like, you know, what about my cousin Alex? So she said, like, I don't need to justify nothing to you, and you just need to leave before something worse happens to you. So he said, like, you know, you better watch your back with my half brother. He's just uses you and throws you out like yesterday's trash. So I'm gonna leave a clip for you guys to see.
All there is to it.
What else would there be?
Well, given your history with Philip, maybe you're standing beside him now because you want to get back into his bed.
So speaking of Philip, Sean is at the pub. He's having a drink. I don't know if it was alcoholic or not, but Philip comes in and he doesn't want to see Philip because at this point he's just going through so much on the same day, and Philip is not there to really, you know, cause any problem. He's just there to tell Sean that he's sorry about his grandfather, and he's just offering his condolences. So anyways, Sean really is in a bad mood. He doesn't really care about that. So he's also saying that you shouldn't be drinking. Didn't you fall off the wagon? So he said, not that it's none of your business what I drink or whatever. So he's like, what about Belle and how it will affect Belle? So he's like, you know, it won't affect Belle. You know, me and Belle are getting a divorce. So it's like, come on now. You guys have been on and off for years. Like, you always get back together. So he's like, not this time. I feel like this is the end. So he's sorry to hear that. So he's like, are you really? You know, given that Philip used to, you know, be with Belle and all that. So he's like, yeah, I'm really genuinely sorry about that. So he asks Philip if he's still with Chloe and all that. So he's like, no, we're over. And besides, I'm not here for personal things. I'm here to regain my birthright, my, you know, Titan and all that. So he tells Sean about the fact that he's actually going to court to get control over Titan now that Xander is running it. So Sean is in his corner with that. He believes that Philip should run Titan. He knows that Victor was grooming him for Titan when he was younger. So he is all for Philip gaining control over that. And, you know, Xander is somebody that will put up a fight, and, you know, he has his past and all that. So he believes Philip is the better person. But Philip also tells Sean that he has Stephanie in his corner with the PR thing, and, you know, for the public to, you know, believe that he has changed and he's mentally sane and all of that, right? So he said, like, you sure that you and Stephanie are not going to be it's not going to be more than professional? So he's like, no, it's not going to be anything but that. But we all know how these things go. So moving on to Hope. Hope is at the cemetery, the graveside for her father, and she's just paying her last respects to him, and she just wishes that she could have been there sooner. She's grieving, mourning him and all that, and all the memories. So Jennifer comes up and they hug and they start talking about everything that's happened today, and also about this new relative that they have, little Dougie. So of course Hope is skeptical about him because she's like, he just shows up out of nowhere. You know, he hasn't been investigated or anything, and everybody believes that he is family. So Jennifer understands that all too well, because when fake Abigail was around, she could tell that that girl wasn't her daughter. So she understands Hope with that. And Hope says when she goes back, she really wants somebody to keep an eye on him. So she asks Jennifer, being that she is an investigative journalist, to really see what it's all about. So Jennifer agrees to that and all that, right? She also talks about Bo and him not waking up. And, Jennifer is in her corner with that. Jennifer's, prays that he will wake up at some point. So Lucas and Sierra come back at the Horton house, and Julie introduces Little Dougie to the two of them, talking about how, he happened to be here and, who he's related to and all of that, right? So they're surprised to meet him and that he is, Doug's grandson and all of that. But they get acquainted, and Julie also tells them that, Hope is in town, and they're surprised to hear about that. So they ask about Bo if he's up. So she tells them that, he hasn't woken up, but they're still praying for him and hoping that things will definitely turn around. So she asks about where Sean is. So, of course, Sierra gets in touch with him. So Sierra meets up with him to go find their mom. So it is just Lucas, Little Dougie, and Julie, and they're sitting down talking about the capsule and what's inside of it, and some Horton memories, the donuts, and how JJ tainted the donuts with some cocaine. I think it was some weed or something like that, marijuana, and how, it was a disaster and all of that, right? So they're just sharing some memories with him. I think earlier too, Little Dougie told Lucas and Sierra, when Julie was away for a bit, that Aunt Marie and Jennifer just said that it probably wouldn't be a good thing to tell Julie about the capsule because the necklace is missing and all of that, and that would probably send her over the edge because she just buried her husband and all that. So they agreed not to tell her about it, because they were about to tell her that Steven probably stole it and all of that. But again, they will be sorry when they find out it wasn't him and it's actually this guy. But why he sold the necklace, I don't know. So at some point, Philip comes over to see Stephanie, and Stephanie briefs him on the fact that Xander came over. So he's like, why would Xander be here? So she tells him that Xander was offering to pay her more than him to represent him instead of Philip. So Philip was like, oh my gosh, why would he do that? So she said, I turned him down flat. So he's like, I'm happy that you did. And, he also accused me of trying to just, get back into your bed. Just that's why I'm representing you. So he's like, he's such a bastard for that and all that. So anyways, she said, I'm happy he came over because now I'm gonna fight so hard for you to win back your company and all of that, right? So while Little Dougie, Lucas, and Julie were talking about the Horton memories and all of that, Jennifer comes in. So Jennifer's asking what's going on. So they're telling her they're just catching up and sharing a lot about the family history and eating the donuts, sliders, and all that. So Jennifer remembers the conversation she had with Hope about looking into this guy and seeing what he's all about. So Little Dougie offers her a donut, so she takes it, but she is definitely gonna be looking into him because, like, who's this guy? What's his claim to fame? I mean, Hope is the only one with sense. I mean, I understand Julie's point, but everybody has bought this whole thing. Nobody else is skeptical. Even Lucas, who was really skeptical of Steven earlier, he should have been a little bit skeptical about this guy. He just welcomed him into this family and all of that, blah blah blah. I just can't stand him. But anyways, Hope is the one with the investigative eye, her being a detective and all of that. She sees right through him and she thinks that something is up with him. So she's the only one with some sense here. But this is it, guys. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to my channel. I will see you guys tomorrow for an all new recap.